Welcome to Team Rocket Garage. Today we have one heck of a video for you. I am going to inspect this vehicle to make sure that you know how, for intents and purposes, and I'm sorry about how bright it is out here, I'm also suffering. I'm going to let you know how to inspect a vehicle. That way you can go buy one and feel good about your purchase. Now keep in mind, I am going to include everything that I do for inspecting a vehicle, and I do inspect vehicles professionally. I get paid for it. I specialize in older vehicles like this one, but I'm going to show you more realistically on something that you are going to be considering buying. I'm going to start off with this. This is an American rear-wheel drive sedan. There are going to be a lot of different cars, so this video is specifically for rear-wheel drive vehicles. Now, that being said, there will be other videos that I will make for front-wheel drive vehicles, all-wheel drive vehicles, four-wheel drive vehicles, trucks, SUVs, things that tow, and all kinds of other things like that. Maybe I'll do one for trailers, boats, and all kinds of other things. Let's get into it. So first off, when we get up to the car, I'm going to come around. We want to make sure that this car is cold. We want to make every effort to buy a car and look at a car that has not been run yet. So most important thing is mechanical condition. We can judge visual condition, but first off, mechanical condition. So let's find out if this engine is hot. So we can get our hand around here. We can kind of feel that the engine, not super hot. If we're comfortable, down here is going to be the exhaust manifold. You're going to be able to tell whether it's a 4-cylinder, V6. You're going to have the intake on top. If there's exhaust manifolds on the sides, but if it's 4-cylinder, the exhaust manifold will be one side or the other, and it'll have probably a heat shield on here like that. Now, if the car is totally cool, you should be able to touch this. If the car has been run even a little bit, this will be warm. If it's been run, even driven up and down the street, that will be scalding hot and you'll burn your hands, so be very careful. The reason we want to touch that is make sure that this hasn't been started just to hide something, right? There's a lot of things right at startup that we want to be able to know. So now that we know that this is cold, we're going to have a cold startup done. We're gonna have, hopefully if we've got someone there with us, we can have them at the back. We can have me at the front. I'm gonna be listening to the engine. I'm gonna listen for weird noises. A little bit of stuff right at the beginning is okay if we're over 100,000 miles, but we want to first look back here. We're gonna look down here. We're gonna find the tailpipes, right? This one's got a tailpipe right here, and there's a tailpipe over here too. That's what that looks like. That guy right there, that's the exhaust. And when you first start up a car, if it's got worn valve seals or worn engine components on the inside, it can smoke from there. A very, very tiny bit is normal. Steam coming out of there if it's cold is normal, but we don't want excessive smoke. Blue smoke means oil burning. White smoke can mean coolant problems, that kind of other stuff. So let's go back up here. First thing we're gonna do before we start it, we wanna check the oil. Want to check to make sure that the oil is in good shape. We've got our trans fluid over here. First off, we want to look at this, make sure it's a nice red here, and we're going to smell it. And we want that to smell sweet. Any indication of burning or black in there is bad, and you may need a transmission rebuild to repair that. It's worth getting a second opinion, but if you're looking at a sub $2,000 or $3,000 car, it might not be worth paying a mechanic to look at it. Then our engine oil. We're gonna come in here. We wanna make sure that O-ring's in good shape. If it's got one, it's gotta be in good shape. Vacuum comes through here. All right, so looking at this, seems like it's a little low, but we are on a hill here, so we're just gonna take note of that. We've got the hole right there, has oil in it, and the top hole, oh, now that I'm looking at it, it's got oil in it. We just did an oil change on this, so I know it's at the right level, but make sure that if there's a crosshatch in there, let's flip this over. That crosshatch right there that you see, that right there where the shadow is, that crosshatch, the oil should be right in the middle of that. If it gets down to that lower mark, that means it's 1 quart low. If it's all the way at the bottom, that's bad. If the oil is right in the middle of that crosshatch mark and it's brand new, having a fresh oil change is less than ideal because we don't know what condition the oil was in or if it was run low. I like to see dirty oil that's right around the crosshatch mark, meaning that it didn't burn any on its last oil change. Going over here, we'll just do a quick look over. Want to check the battery. Usually there's a sticker saying when it was made. Want to look at the belt here. This belt looks basically new, but we're looking for cracking. So you can see there's a tiny bit of cracking there. See that? That means that it's getting older. This belt is fine, but keep that in mind. We also want to look for any leaks. This leak around here might be excessive pressure in there, so we're going to check that as well. Nothing crazy jumping out at me, but you want to look for wetness. Wetness is important, and smelling. I can't smell anything under here, maybe a tiny bit of an oil smell. It's an older car, not a big deal. We want to be smelling for coolant though. Coolant's a big one. Speaking of which, let's check our coolant. Now, never ever open the coolant or the radiator, the reservoir or the radiator, unless you know the pressure is gone. So we're going to grab this radiator hose, give her a squeeze. That's easy to squeeze like that. It's not a big deal, so we can pop this open. Let's take a look at that. It's at the right level and it looks remotely green. It's pretty good. Give her a sniff. Smells like coolant, no big deal. I am hesitant to buy a car that has brand new coolant in it. Why is there brand new coolant? Coolant lasts 100,000 miles. There should not be brand new coolant in there. Now, unless there was a reason, maybe the radiator was replaced, thermostat was replaced, something like that. But sometimes new coolant, coolant should be a dingy green. Bright green means it's been replaced and you want to be careful. Why was it replaced? I don't know. If there's a good reason, sure, whatever. Cool, moving on. So we'll do a startup here and we'll give her a listen. Let's see if I can find a place to put my phone. All right, cool, we're recording. So that's good. I didn't hear any noises, did you? There's a lot of common things that can cause noises. Exhaust leaks, big one. Ticking, big one. Exhaust leaks and ticking can sound exactly the same. So if you're unsure at all, make sure you get a second opinion. I will come and inspect the car for you if you're in the area, and it's less than $100, I come to you. Lots of mechanics can come and help you with this. Now, you want to be listening for any weird noises. This little ticking here, that's normal. You can hear that very, very light ticking. It's like a needle drop, right? That's the fuel injectors. Fuel injectors click. There's no problem with that. Want to hear and see if we've got any belt noises. Nothing crazy there. Walking down the side of the car here, we want to make sure we're not hearing exhaust noise under here. Exhaust noise under here means the exhaust is leaking. We'll look more into that. We're going to come back here. I'm gonna put my hand under the tailpipe and you can feel it just going very consistently, coming over here, nice and consistent. That's a good thing. We're checking to see with our hands, we can feel the pulses. They should feel even on both sides and it should be not because if you've got a miss in there, that's where you're gonna see it first. You can also tell the miss by the engine idling. Now this engine, very smooth. Moving around a tiny bit. She's a 100,000 mile car, not a big deal. Next, we're gonna come in here. Wanna make sure the brake pedal feels normal. Brake pedal feels like a normal car, that's a good thing. Wanna wiggle this. No clunking. If there's any clunk in the steering, you're gonna wanna look into that, but let's back this car up. Which is another note. First off, we're going in the shade here. But a good note is to make sure reverse works. A lot of people will inspect a car and they'll just drive it, park it, never check reverse. So I'm not gonna put this car on a lift or anything like that because I wanna show you guys how to inspect a car in the real world environment. So let's shut this off and let's look underneath the car. There are a ton of components to a car, but safety components are the most important. So first off, I've got the wheel turned. These tires look brand new. That's a really, really good thing. Let's lay down here on our backs. Got to get dirty for this. Now, first off, I can see that there's a ton of rust, which is okay because this is an older car. I can see that there's some leakage right here. What's that about, right? We've got a little drain right there where the oil filter goes up to. So that's just a catch drain. That oil's not coming from a leak. It's coming from just the oil. Every time you change it, it drains out there, which is common on these cars. So it's important to do your research. Let's put this in wide angle. We're gonna look over here. This boot right here indicates that this is a steering component. This goes to the steering rack right there, and that pulls the wheels back and forth. If there's any clunking, you want to look right here, right? Make sure that there's no clunking for the rack itself. It can also be between here and the steering wheel itself, up on the steering shaft. We're going to follow this over. We want to make sure that this boot here is in really good shape. That's called your tie rod, and if that breaks, you will lose steering, and that's very dangerous. We want to look up here on our shock, make sure that there's no leakage, and we want to make sure that the connection to our sway bar here, this is called our sway bar end link. Want to make sure that that's okay as well. In the interest of keeping this video short, do the inspection, same one, on the other side. You also want to go ahead, give her a little kick, make sure there's no clunking. You can clean that off later. Now, we're going to go on underneath the back here. So, looking underneath here, want to look for anything crazy. This car's got a brand new tow hitch, which is nice. I put that on there, so I already knew about that. Want to come under here. First off, we're going to look and see what jumps out first. Okay, so this car's got cherry bombs on it. I added that, but want to look back here. Here's our shock. That shock has been, it looks like it's in good shape. There's no leakage. There's a bushing for the shock. I want to make sure that there's no cracked rubber in there. And then our control arms, it's going to be hard to inspect those on the car with the car on the ground, but if there's any issue with control arms or bushings, we'll feel that on our test drive. So we'll do the same inspection on the other side, and then we're going to do a quick walk around before we take the car for a drive. Mainly, we want to make sure that nobody's going to blame us for doing anything here, right? So we look down the side of the car, relatively straight. We're going to check to make sure that the trunk opens. Make sure that the trunk's got all of its stuff in there. Make sure that the lining is there and it's held up well. No wear. And then we're going to come over here. We're going to unlock all these doors. And before we go on the test drive, turn the key forward. Don't listen to the radio on your test drive. Never listen to the radio. Make sure all of our windows work from up here. Oops, it's the wrong one. Here we go. And our automatic up and down. Perfect. Now that these are unlocked, make sure every door opens and closes. This is important because it can cost a few $100s to fix a car door that's not opening or closing. And if it doesn't open or close and you're okay with that, you can talk them down on the price. So, start her back up. Nothing crazy, no weird sounds. I'm gonna turn on the air conditioning here, as light as I can to avoid any noise. So put her in drive. It should go into drive pretty much immediately. We should be able to have it just go into drive, into park, into drive, stop, into park, right? Into reverse. Nice and quick. Should take less than a second to get in and out of drive, and it should accelerate smooth, quick, easy. And we want to keep an eye on the dashboard here, make sure if any warning lights come up. Want to hit some bumps. We're listening for clunks when we're going over bumps, okay? And remember, No stereo. We want to hear if things are wrong with this. The more things we can find wrong, the less we can pay for it, or the more problems we avoid. So going around that turn right there indicates to me this limited slip still works. So we're gonna go through this bump right here, and we're listening, guys, we're listening. Nice and smooth. I did hear a little clunk back there. I wonder what that could be. We're scraping on the front because those bumps are pretty big, and this is a pretty big car, but not a big deal. So now we're gonna just really go nice and easy, clear here. 1, 2, we're gonna go through the gears. Think we're in third. Think we have to get to 40 to go to fourth gear. All right, and then this is what's called torque converter lockup. So you can see I'm modulating the pedal a little bit, and now it's out of torque converter lockup. So we want to make sure that this can go into torque converter lockup. Not all cars have this. Older ones generally don't. Newer ones, like this 2010, will have a torque converter lockup for third and fourth gear. If it works in one, it'll work in the other. We just want to make sure that that works. Now we're going to go through the gears here, and we're going to try again. We're going to be listening here. Good thing this got an exhaust, so we know. All right, ready? So first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, and then it's going to lock up. Perfect. So the lockup, so I'm modulating my foot a little bit. So yeah, you see how it kind of slips there? That's normal for an automatic. The torque converter will slip a tiny bit, but when we're in lockup, right, it's not kicking out of there. It'll kick in and out of lockup like it's a fifth gear. It's not a problem. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's designed to lock up the torque converter. It bypasses that torque converter and makes sure that we're getting as good a fuel economy as possible. Torque converters are not fuel economy items. They take power to run, but if they can lock up, we're good to go. Now we're going to make sure that this has all the power it's supposed to. We'll floor it, get a soft, smooth downshift all the way through the RPMs, no weird noises, and then brakes, no one's behind us. ABS works too. Perfect. Well, that's about everything that I can think of. So we're going to continue our test drive for roughly 10 more minutes. Make sure that she's up to temperature here and stays up to temperature. And then we're going to pause and take a breath and just do a quick wrap up. And then I'll tell you how to barter with some people in just a second. All right, and let me tell you, this AC really works good. That's a very, very good thing. All right, and then we're parked here. Let's do a walk around on the vehicle and talk about getting the price down. All right, so when you're talking someone down on their price, they're gonna tell you they're firm already. Some people will tell you that they're open to offers, but you don't wanna tell them like, hey, what's your lowest price? What's your lowest price? That's an old guy thing. A lot of people have heard that 100 times on every car that they've sold, and you wanna go around the car and let them know your concerns. So we'll say this is a $4,000 car. You say, okay, sir, I appreciate you taking the time to show me this vehicle. There's a few things that are a concern to me. Now, first off, it's common that the paint is peeling, but for me, I want to get the hood repainted. This front entire header panel will need to be replaced, and this headlight not matching is pretty unsightly. The entire front of the car is just kind of ruined looking, even though it's fairly straight. I like the new tires, but the wheels are pretty scuffed up. We got scuffs there, there. We got some curb rash. I think that what you're asking is a fair price over a longer term, and you might get it from someone else. But I think that I can make it worth your time, and I can make it, and you can make it worth my time for coming here and looking at this fine vehicle. Now, I would like to offer blank. So what you want to do first off is you can't go too low, because they might just walk. They might just say, you know what, you're wasting my time. So if you say $2,000, they're just going to say no, not worth my time, and you're going to lose their interest. But you are there and you do have cash in your pocket. So how about this? How about, where do we want to be, right? Maybe we want to pay $3,500 for this, and we want to say, you know what, with some room for bartering, this, that, or the other, I don't know, what do you think about $3,000? What do you think about $3,000? And before you respond, I've got the money in my pocket and I want to drive this away. I value your time. You know, they're going to say, yes, no, maybe so. They might try and meet you in the middle. Generally, someone will take, okay, well, they've offered me $3,000, I'm at $4,000. They might say, well, how's $3,500? Well, they also might say, well, my expectation is $3,700. So if I tell this person $3,500, they're going to meet me in the middle, right? So you gotta know about that. So you're going to say $3,000, maybe they say, okay, how's $3,500? And then boom, you got what you want. Well, now you want to split that difference. You want to save as much money as possible, right? Because you're already there. If you like the car, you're going to buy it regardless. You might as well save the money. So if they're here and they're here, just cut it in half, right? That's the real basic. You can say, okay, well, here's $3,000. They say, oh, well, how about $3,500? You know what? I was thinking $3,200 would be okay, right? Because then they're going to say, oh, well, let's just split the difference. We'll do $3,250, or let's do $3,400, or you do the back and forth thing. Or you can just say, you know what? The wheels just need to be replaced. I don't like the scuffs, and I've got to do a bunch of stuff on the front end, which I appreciate is already kind of factored in, so I'm stuck here. So just do the back and forth. You'll figure it out. Don't waste people's time by messaging them on the internet and offering them and never showing up. Nobody likes that. You don't like that. I don't like that. And that car doesn't like that. And everyone thinks you're silly. You're wasting the internet. But thank you so much for watching. We are almost at 22 minutes. Make sure you like and subscribe and watch all of my other videos. And thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you'd like to see next in the comments below.